real success stories told by the people who lived them.
We're going to have some guests on this show that everybody knows, and we're going to have guests on this show that nobody knows yet.
One by one, Nick Hyder is adding hits to the Hitstreak.
Blessings, folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Hitstreak. I'm your man, Nick Hyder, and joining me, folks, in the Hit Lab today, all the way from Beaverton, Oregon. He's an author. He's the owner and president of Geograde Constructors. Folks, my man, Alan Beane, is in the building. How we doing, man?
Man, I'm doing so great, and thank you for the opportunity to come out here. It's my first time to Nashville, and I've not been disappointed. Wonderful studio you have going here, and it's even better what you're doing out there, getting entrepreneurs to kind of speak up and share experiences.
That's the first hit right there, baby. Right? He's hot, but I knew he would be. Well, first of all, let me, this year, Rhiannon and I did something we had never done before. It was one of the coolest things we'd ever done, and it was what an honor it was to be invited to the National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C., which is where we met you. We were seated at the table together. It was like the ultimate event to hang out with really awesome people. And so and it was faith-based and faith-driven, which was by far the best part, and was a breath of fresh air. So I'm so glad to have met you there, man. How many times have you gone to that? What's your experience like when you go to those things and all that?
Actually, that was my first time. There's a group that I'm in Portland called a Friday Group, and I got invited through that to go. So it was my first time like you. And, the faith-based piece of it was awesome. It was, it was good to be in the room with so many people, coming from similar backgrounds. And it was cool to meet you and your wife and everybody else that was at the table. It just seemed like the people at that table, we kind of stuck together and reached out to each other afterwards. And it's great, man.
I don't know what everybody else's tables was like, but ours was awesome.
It was cool.
Ours was awesome. We got to hang out with Kimmons and all those guys. Like, oh my goodness! Like, it was like a who's who of just amazing faith-based people. It's really, really neat, and it meant a lot to us here in Wembley. Sing too. Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
Wow.
And I heard him a lot when I was at Ohio State going to school. There was a couple of programs that I volunteered for, and he was always the guest singer for it, for those programs. So I've heard him many, many times.
Oh,
and
man.
He's awesome.
Absolutely. Well, he's got, it's one of those things where it's an emotional journey when he opens his mouth and those words come out. Yeah. Like those words had just so much impact that day. Not a lot of things have impact at 7:00 in the morning. All right.
It's a bit early.
And my man is just crushing it. It was a big scene at night. Like, it was fantastic. And the hair stands up on your neck, like you get goosebumps. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, you felt what he was singing. I mean, that was the whole point. And like I said, every performance that I've been to his is exactly the same. You feel it.
Absolutely.
And it's good in an environment like that because you want to be on that feeling of joy and being positive and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Man, well, check it out. I pay attention to everything. And you can work a room, brother. That's a superpower, dude.
Yeah.
A lot of most successful people have that in common. So that was really cool to watch. And we're going to talk about that. But you got a little story to tell where you had some fun with me at my expense. It was good, folks. It was good. So I'll turn that over to you and let you react. What happened?
Oh man, I just saw a golden opportunity. So Nick and his lovely wife had went to one of the breakout rooms, ahead of me. And I was like, man, I think I forgot to get their information. So I was like, oh, let me just, try something a little fun. And so I came up behind Nick and I tapped him on the shoulder like, excuse me, sir, you're going to have to come with me. And he froze and his wife froze initially. She started looking at me out of the corner of her eye. When she saw it was me, she just busted out laughing. She's like, that was so good. You got him so good. You should have seen the look on his face. And I was like, oh, wow. So that was kind of a funny story. But it kind of let me know that they're just good sports and there's good, fun people. And so, it's just kind of cool to get to know them and be able to come here and meet in person again.
Well, it was cool, man. And it was you got to understand, folks, we were in DC. So this is the National Prayer Breakfast. So this is all the security.
Yes.
All the security, the Secret Service, black Yukons, black Escalades, everywhere, ultimate security, right? And so just checking in, was a lot of security.
It was an ordeal.
For it is an ordeal. We're staying it's at the Hilton Hotel, where it's been the whole time, if I'm not mistaken, which is also where Ronald Reagan was shot, that assassination tent out front, right? Yep. So we got to see that. Man, that's like, it was just really neat. It was an unbelievable experience to do that. And yeah, you got, so with all that Secret Service around, when that was whispered in my ear, because it sounded so good, man. It sounded so good. All right, so check it out, folks. Right now, what he's got going on in his professional life, these guys are changing the game when it comes to affordable housing. And ironically, you guys are operating with kind of the same mantra that we like to say here all the time, which is you guys were wanting to provide solutions that give people a hand up rather than a handout, right? So, man, tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, having come from, different environments where I was around some of the, affordable housing, they call it like Section 8 and different things like that. And kind of the environment that it created growing up as a kid, as I got older and definitely into, entrepreneurship, which is just being obedient, to being a good steward of the resources, from the faith-based perspective, I started a little bit, that really didn't help too much to get that handout. I didn't understand what it was about, what went into it, the different sacrifices that you have to make. And so what we decided to do was to initially, it is appropriate to have a handout when someone is literally dying of thirst.
Yes.
I'll not only will I give you water, I'll pour it in your mouth. You understand what if that being the case.
Amen.
But if it's something to where, people's basic needs have been met and stuff like that, I like to work from a standpoint of a hand up. Why? Because that same person that we're giving a hand up to could be that very same person that we get a hand up from.
Oh.
You see what I mean? And so you do it from establishing a relationship, a real relationship, but from a community standpoint. And so with the hand up piece, we want to come in there and build community. Yeah, there's affordable housing affordable housing is necessary in a lot of cases, but we want to look at it from a bigger picture. Whereas where are the jobs in or close to that community? And are there living wage jobs? All of us that kind of came together, we're all builders. And so the construction industry, as a lot of people know, is really looking for people to come into the trades. And so when we come in there and engage, the hand up is we will make it known that we're coming into the community. We're hiring, we have jobs, we will train you, we'll provide resources. And so we're looking for ways to have a hand up. If there's a small business there already there, say a restaurant, we will make sure that we educate our people to go patronize that restaurant. And another thing that we do is if things aren't going well at that restaurant, we say, look, pull the owner or owners off to the side, in confidence, and speak to them and say, these are things that we can do better and stuff like that. So just take kind of the family approach, but all with the hand up, mentality to where you're trying to help them. And, it really goes into a saying somebody poured into me at a young age that really impacted me in my life, which is make your friends before you need them.
Oh, I'm gonna have to borrow that one. That's good. I never heard that. I've heard a lot of great quotes and sayings. I haven't heard that one. So make your friends before you need them. I love that. I'm writing that down so I don't forget.
Exactly. And then it just it always keeps you aware and mindful of how you're presenting yourself, how you're interacting with people and stuff like that. And that's crucial because, especially since like the pandemic and stuff like that, it's really become obvious to me that you really want to use your superpower of being kind, because you never know what somebody's going through. And just those kind words might get them to kind of come off the, the edge or the ledge, so to speak. And, I think all of us have been through tough things, and then you come into work or you come into a situation and it's negative and hostile, and that just magnifies it. And so you just always kind of want to be conscious about that and mindful that just a few kind words can help somebody through a tough situation that's going on the inside. Not everybody wears their problems well. And so you always want to be mindful of that. And so to kind of make your friends before you need them is just kind of a heat check, self check. Are you adding to, the solution, or are you, contributing to somebody just not being able to, deal with their problems in a good way?
Dude, that's brilliant.
Yep.
That is brilliant. It sounds to me like, I've been building businesses and building entrepreneurs for a long time. I have never built a structure. Okay. and what I can tell you from the renovation that made me like coming here today, that we got going on, is there's it's like learning a new language.
Yep.
So the moment that I started treating it like that, I started to understand, right? And you also got to know who your source is that's teaching you, right? And I'm blessed to have some great people that are leading this renovation for us. So, like as far as being a builder, I want to get right into this right now, right in the beginning, before we even go back. What are some of the most common misconceptions that you see from, like, again, the average person has no idea the framework, process, and all the things that have to do. And anytime you're building a structure, it's big money. All right. I don't care if it's $20,000. That's big money to somebody. So, and you guys are putting the heart and community back into building, which is a money business.
Yes.
Okay. So what are some things that, like, you can maybe connect some dots for the average person to know about building and what you do? And I think that's going to highlight you guys' mission a lot with this, right? So let's see what you got.
Yeah. And, probably a good way for me to talk about this is just from the standpoint of when I was young, just a kid. And, I'd walk back and forth and I would just look around and just see things like bridges and, traffic lights and stuff like that, or a fancy house, or a big, tall commercial building. And I would just wonder, like, how did that get there? And then so that kind of got me, down the path of trying to figure out, terms that I learned later in life, like the built environment. What is that? And so, it's got, obviously buildings and transportation and stuff like that. But something that people don't, often consider is that I spent a lot of my years, working for other companies, focusing on like bridges and roads and stuff like that. And so when people look at a bridge, they think it's this big, complicated thing to do. And it's really not.
Really?
It's got basic components. And because you want efficiencies, you try to make them modular, you try to make them components and stuff like that. So it's really easy to do. And the same thing with buildings, as I think if people looked at the practical uses of the structures or the building or whatever it is, and just kind of see that it's just made up of just certain elements or components, you can kind of break it down that way and kind of get your mind around it. So when I would tell people I build bridges, they think it was just like I was building a rocket ship or something like that. And I'm like, no, you just kind of build up the abutments. And if it's something simple, and just put in some girders or beams and then, put some so people can drive across, and you're done. They build bridges all over the world. And,
they do.
In like rural environments and stuff. It's very simple.
They build them in water.
Yeah. Over water, that kind of stuff. And so I try to just get people just to try to take a step back and just look and tell me what they see, what they understand. And then I can kind of fill in the blanks. But really it's just, what kind of transformed me more into like the housing part of the built environment is that's kind of where you get into the community and the businesses and all that stuff. And I just try to think, matter of fact, I'm also here in Nashville to meet with another company tomorrow where they talk about urban planning and development from like a big picture standpoint to make sure that you have everything in there to have community. You have all the essential services you need right there. The educational, health, all those different type restaurants, places to shop and stuff right there in your community, and make it walkable and make it so you can ride a bike. Why? So you spend more time there. When you spend more time in your community, you get serious about it. And if somebody is trying to do something that's not on the same page with the rest of the people in the community, because you're building those relationships. So basically, just simply construction, it's not that tough. If you kind of just look back at it, it's a lot of common sense associated with it.
Well, we don't all have that.
Yeah, common sense is not so common. Yeah.
Well, I'm really encouraged to hear, like, you're here to meet. So you're from Oregon, and you're in Nashville to meet with folks to talk about a common problem that's in both places. I'd say that's a common problem nationwide.
Yep, it is.
So that's cool, folks, right? You hear that all these awesome people are working on this together nationwide. If they solve it in one market, they'll have intel and intellectual properties and knowledge on how to help another market, right? But it's very important that those guys connect, right? So that's very encouraging, dude. Like, how did you So I think it's time to take them back. Like, I'm just so the fact that your passion is so people driven, purpose driven. Like I know a lot of builders, and they're great businessmen. That's not what motivates a lot of them. You know what I'm saying? And that's okay. Everybody is what motivates you is your choice, right? So, but you're different. You're just built different. Okay. Now you found success. So a lot of people say, well, you can't be successful doing it that way. That's not true either.
Not true.
That's not true either. But first of all, we all define what our success is anyways.
That's true.
Right. I want to thank all of our loyal fans that spread across all 50 states and 14 different countries. It's absolutely amazing. Folks, help us keep spreading the word, right? Share your favorite episodes with friends and make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the Hitstreak on all digital platforms. Thanks again, and we look forward to more. So, all right, how did this become your passion? And then and then we got to go back and get them to like, how did that lead to this? Right. So like, why is this so important to you?
The reason why, it's so, important to me is that, I have a philosophy where, somebody's poured into me, the Most High has poured into me, giving me everything that I need. You know what I mean? And so what I try to do is just, my why is, if I can't help at least one person, I won't do a deal. It won't get done. And I'm trying to spread that philosophy around so that people understand that, when your cup is full, and it will be full if you're obedient and you do, what I'm saying, and you live that lifestyle, you're going to have overflow. And so, yeah, I can do something as an individual with that overflow, but isn't it so much more powerful if you get together with other like-minded individuals like you and me and others, and we combine our overflow to do a bigger project, a greater work. You see what I'm saying? Help more people. That's what I'm trying to do. So all these connections is trying to make them and get that know, like, and trust relationship going so that we, when we share our resources, it's going to have the biggest impact, and you don't have to just focus on where you're at. And that's one of the things kind of from the pandemic has kind of showed me is that now I want to be out there in that great big world after being confined to one little corner of it, for a couple of years. And then when you have these know, like, and trust relationships, you can magnify what the Father has done for you to help his people. You understand what I'm saying? And so,
I do.
Yeah. And so that's kind of what got me into it, is that I just finally made my mind up. I just have to help somebody because somebody helped me. I don't say that, I just do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we say it around here a lot, like, I think relationships are the most valuable currency on the market today. Now, money's also a currency, and it doesn't, make more money unless you know what to do with it and you put it to work and all that kind of stuff. Well, relationships are the same thing. If, there's acquaintances, but relationships are very like, there's all these different levels or layers of a relationship, right? And, the relationships that you benefit from the most, that you work on those relationships. It's just like my marriage at home. If we don't work on it, it ain't that good, So all relationships require some work. And, just like you said, we've had some awesome people sit in that chair.
Yep.
They all said exactly what you just said. Right. So if you don't believe it, like, I'm saying all these great people have it in common. You're not the exception to the rule. Nope. I'm not either.
Yep.
Okay. Relationships are a currency. You said, honestly, like, oh yeah, let's see. Hold on. Yep. It was like 3 or 4 back there. I'm getting caught up here. I didn't want to interrupt it. Like, it was too good. I didn't want to distract from what they were hearing. All right. So we know what motivates you. Now let's talk about what got you there. All right. So at one point in time, you were at the bottom of the spectrum, working your way up. Talk to me about that.
So what kind of got me there is that, I didn't really understand that if you don't live what you've been called to do, then, people can suffer and so that comment kind of came to me just like point blank. So when I explained, what I had been doing and what my skill set was, and the fact that it was more of an entrepreneurial leap that had to be taken in order for me to realize or for people to realize the benefit of it. So I was kind of stuck in corporate America. I had what you would call an employee mindset, which is not bad.
That's right. Not everybody can be the boss.
Exactly. But I had an entrepreneurial spirit. So even though I was working for others, entrepreneurs tend to be good stewards of things, because if you in a competitive environment, you have to be a good steward of resources in order to, like you said, make money or make time or whatever the case may be. So I had that entrepreneurial spirit when I was, and employers love that, because it's like you're treating it like it's your own, and you're respecting it, and you're valuing, and you're encouraging other people to do the same, right? And the key thing is, you do that by holding people accountable, right? By Yeah, exactly. By leading by example with self accountability. You're not out there misusing the company resource and so on and so on. You're out there not being productive, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that, I had such a heart and a passion for the people, is that the particular companies that I was working for, great companies, tended to be very large, but it didn't allow me to apply that and bring it back to the people, right? And so somebody said, Alan, I don't want you to get mad at me for saying this, but I want to shock you. I don't think you realize how many people have been hurt or damaged because you didn't utilize your gifts.
Wow.
You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
When I thought about that, I'm like, man, somebody was hungry, didn't have a place to stay. Analogy I used earlier with the water, I wasn't in a position, to help there. And that right there is what set me on my entrepreneurial journey late in life.
Wow.
I had gotten comfortable and complacent, working for others. And it's just been a few years.
Define late for me. How late was life when you decided to take that leap?
When I took the actual strong leap, it's probably only been about a year and a half.
Okay.
And that's what I said, is that when I told people my story, I had always played around with it. People might call it a side hustle, but they were like, no, there's so many people that could benefit from that.
Right.
If you were to pour more time into it. And so, man, when I started doing that, basically I just started being obedient. Things started to flow through and out, and the kind of love and the relationship that came out of that, that's what I value, are those memories. You know what I mean? And to kind of get through the struggle, had some, personal situations that happened to me where I just really didn't know myself well enough like I should. And so I couldn't, be that partner, kind of that you need. And so I lost some opportunities there, but to get through it, and I'm open. I'm an open book. Like, I believe in, mental health and stuff like that.
Yes, sir.
And so I engaged, a counselor, someone to help me. And
everybody needs a good coach in life.
Good coach, and that's another thing. I'm a huge proponent of coaches, life coaches. People want to come in and start giving people social work and all these different things when they just need to know who they are and what they want to do and whose they are. And so through this whole process, I had to come up with something that would snap me out of certain things. And so I just came up, and this is in direct alignment to what your core principles are on your website. And so I came up with know better, do better, be accountable. So when I'm beating myself up for something that I did or didn't do, when I look back on it, when I was working with this counselor, she was like, Alan, you didn't know any better. So how could you do better? Stop beating yourself up for that. If you do, look back to what you did and say, now that you know better, looking back on it, how can you do better? And then to make sure you don't have that whole New Year's resolution thing, how everybody goes to the gym.
Yeah.
Then a couple weeks later, you have to be accountable.
Yeah.
And you can have self-accountability. And so the way that I decided to do it was linking up, with people like you that are like-minded, and we would meet, offline in what I would call like a kingdom building fellowship. And because of COVID, we were doing it with video meetings and stuff like that, but it was people that were coming together, and we were trying to use our biggest resource, which is our mind, to come together and try to figure out, how we can be obedient and feed the people like we've been fed, by honoring the Father.
That's right.
And so with the know better, do better, be accountable, that's something that led me on a greater personal journey, because I could use that in my personal life to keep things together, so much so that I'm adding that to my business. Because in construction, it can be a dangerous profession. And so if a near miss or incident happens, or actually when I'm onboarding people, I kind of share this story with them, and I say that if something like that does happen, the first thing we ask ourselves is, did we know better?
Right.
In a case of a near miss or something like that, how are we going to do better? Right. And we define that. How are we going to be accountable to make sure that this doesn't happen again? And then you document that thing. And so I got with a fashion apparel provider, and they made a logo. And so it's basically a circle. It's a continuum. Know better, do better, be accountable. And you just use that as something so that so somebody's not worried, oh, I'm going to lose my job. No. We're going to learn and grow from this, but ultimately we're going to be accountable so that we can move forward. And this is just in the past.
Everybody needs guiding principles, right?
Exactly.
And, when it comes to the coaches and stuff, it's crazy. If you're kid needs more, if they're behind in school, they get them a coach, they get them a tutor. If they're doing better in school than they're supposed to, they get them a coach, they get them a tutor. Your son's playing a sport, probably get private lessons, private instruction, right?
Yep.
And then we grow up and we stop.
Nope, that's bad. Yes.
Right. That's a big thing. I heard a thing not long ago about, how iron, we always hear iron sharpens iron, iron sharpens iron. Well, let's take a piece of iron that everybody's very common with, like an axe, right? Yep. So an axe is a piece of iron that's used to chop wood, right? So if you chop the wood, if you take the axe and hit the wood over and over again, and you never go back and sharpen that axe, which you can only do that with other iron, then all you end up left with is a dull piece of wood and a damaged piece of iron in that axe.
Yep.
Right. So that it's no matter what, when you're going out and you're pouring whatever it is that you into other people and other communities and stuff, you got to go back and sharpen all your tools, right? You got to go find some iron. That's where those coaches really help out with that.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of life coaches, performance coaches, and from young until old. One of the biggest things that I learned over the pandemic and going through a tough personal relationship with a marriage that didn't end so well was that it all starts with you. And kind of that,
that's right.
Yeah. And, and kind of that, personal vision where you have to define, what you want to do and is that going to be impactful?
Yeah.
And then align yourself or surround yourself with other people that kind of do and feel the same way, because there's power in that. There's power in the collective.
I used to want my wife to like me when I didn't even like me. So I was asking her to like somebody that I didn't even like. You know what I mean? It took there was a lot of self-reflection, to ask myself, was I somebody, if I don't like myself, why? That's probably why she don't like me, for the same reason. So if I fix those, I fix the ones that she's got too, right? So I think I actually heard that from Jada Smith on a talk one time, where she said, if I don't like you, why do you want me to like, or if you don't like you, why do you want me to like you? Yeah. And I was like, dang, that's so good. Right. All right, well, I'm sorry to interrupt. Keep on going with your story. So you're a year, so you did, how many years in corporate life did you do? Which that's a whole career. So congratulations on that. Yeah, thank you. I mean, it probably was 20 plus years, wow. In total. Yeah. So, I spent a long time there, but the benefit to that, and like what the coach was telling me, knowledge. The knowledge is that you got knowledge that a lot of people don't have, and you can transfer that knowledge back to the community. So I have a passion for other entrepreneurs just like you, but I'm kind of like, at this point in time, I'm laser focused on people that are wanting to get into the game as an entrepreneur, and people that are a couple years in, because those are the most critical points of, and even the Small Business Administration knows that's when a lot of people go out. And so I'm very passionate about that, about providing that support for the startup, the small, persons and stuff like that. Absolutely. But all that knowledge on corporate America kind of focused on the construction industry. So there's a huge need for that now with the infrastructure bill out here, and then the different needs for fresh, clean drinking water and different things. So to get people able and in a position to get into the construction business is a huge passion of mine, because that allows them, like you said, with the rehab, somebody might be skilled at that by doing their own rehab at their home. They could provide that service to someone else. And I'd like to work with them to make sure they understand how to do that, from having a good strategic business plan and then being able to move that into a business. Now, to me, the definition of a business, and I kind of I think I stole this from Michael E. Gerber. I read so many books. Dude, nobody says anything for the first time anymore. That is true. Nothing is new under the sun. It may be, you might have said it and it came to you out of the blue, and somebody else already said it. It's not like you're not. If I know somebody said something, I always tell them Michael Jordan said this, somebody said that, but I don't always know who said it, right? Yep. So it just is what. At the end of the day, it's what was said that mattered, not giving credit to whoever said it, right? Exactly. And that's true, because this thing, it kind of changed me, is that the definition of a business is something that runs the same or better
with or without you. Because if you don't have that,
amen,
you just bought yourself a job.
That's right.
And so that's something that I'm passionate. Once I figured that out the hard way on my own, I'm very passionate about sharing that message with people starting to get into business or people who've only been a couple of years along, so that there's not so many bad habits. I'm not saying I couldn't work with somebody else, but I'm saying that's kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah.
Is to get people coming in that way. You can kind of have people to go in there and be able to sustain and just not be a statistic. Just because you don't know what you don't know.
I'm 42 years old now, and we're taking. I wish I'd taken the risks in my 20s that I'm taking now, right? Because you have time to overcome for those. But like even at 42, I feel like we're just getting started, right? So, and a lot of folks that are my age are like, I've got my retirement, and they're on this plan, which is fine, and they're halfway into that journey, and they've got to finish it, right? So it takes a lot of courage to take a over 2 decade, almost 3 decade career of the corporate life, and then go out on your own, so it's almost like it's a whole new career. It's a whole new career that we're starting in the second half of life. That can be very scary for a lot of folks. What was something that I think it comes down to you got to feed your faith, not your fear.
That's right.
Right. And there's only one of you.
Yep.
You're 100% unique.
Yep.
There's only one. And I believe that I have gifts that make me that nobody else has. And just like you said before, that's what I want to, if I don't know exactly what they are, I'm going to find out. I'm going to do whatever I can to find out. And then I want to share.
Yep.
I want to share. So what was it took you a couple decades to make that decision. What was the final straw that made you take that leap?
The final straw was what, obviously, when someone had made that, that comment, to think consciously about, now that and you've articulated to me, and I've told you how powerful, the gifts that you have, that the Father, instilled in you and gave you those opportunities. It finally just came to me just saying to myself, you know what, your time is the right time, and just moving forward with that. And then again, I mentioned earlier, about the know better, do better, be accountable. That's how I get myself unstuck. And I'll regularly schedule a time, depending on what I'm doing, daily or weekly, where I just sit down and just do the whole know better, do better, be accountable, to make sure that I'm moving forward and I'm documenting, getting the content and the stuff that I need to provide to the businesses or to the clients, so that, they can move forward empowered, knowing that, hey, tomorrow's not promised. A lot of times people foolishly think that there's more time. So you have to make the best use of it now. You know what I mean? And so that's something that it keeps me grounded and it keeps me humble. But, just basically just coming to grips with, what, there's no set time. I couldn't have did this 20 years ago because I didn't know better. And, now that the opportunity has presented itself, it's my time. I'm going. And I'm willing to bring all that want to go with me together.
Right. Yep. The Hitstreak is powered by our partners at HitLab Creative Studios. Whether it's launching your brand new podcast, rebranding your current podcast, or taking advantage of any of their other content packages specifically for your social media needs, the HitLab is a one-stop shop for you. Visit hitlabstudio.com for more. Well, it's important that you have your guiding principles: know better, be accountable. It's the biggest mistake that I see with a lot of people when they've established some form of guiding principles is they only apply it to certain parts of their life and not all of their life, right? And that's a huge mistake. So if you're a business and you have guiding principles on how you make decisions for your business, you have to run every decision of the entire business by those guiding principles, and you should do the same with your personal life. I think every family, every household should have a mantra that's very clearly stated and talked about and tried to be lived out over and over and over again. So it sounds like to me you're taking those, you're measuring all the aspects of your life across those guiding principles. All of it.
Yep. Know better, do better, be accountable, and another one that you just kind of brought to my mind is a code of conduct, or your ethics, or your values, what you hold strong to. And so, the other partners that I have, back there in Oregon, we're coming together figuring this out, but we all share, a common code where we're trying to make sure that we help people out, if it's, working in the affordable housing space, that we're doing that, people have, so that people have a roof over their head. But at the end of the day, another thing that kind of motivated me to get here was investing in myself. That was something that I had lost track of. I went to the university and figured out how to get that done. And then I just forgot about self-education. Forgot about it. The fact that one of the things that kind of got me into it was just doing just real estate investing, just basic real estate investing, whether it was flipping or things along those lines. But I did self-education, picked up some books and started reading, got some YouTube content and stuff like that, and just started. And then when some of the stuff was good content and there was an investment involved, I did it, and it was the best return on investment ever. So you have to invest in yourself. You got to go with you. Yep.
Amen. So I mentioned that you're an author. That's a bucket list item of mine. I am not one yet, but I will be.
For sure.
And so with now, it's just a matter of time. I'm figuring out the how, right? And then we're going to put the deadline on it here real soon. So you're an author. So congratulations, first of all. That's fantastic. And you are one of the co-authors on Who Influenced Who, right? Is that right? No, Who Influenced You?
Yes, that's right.
Who Influenced You? Apologies. And that was with Dr. George C. Fraser and Mr. Stan Matthews, right? So tell me how in the world did you get into that? And then what was the purpose behind it, and what's the future for that look like?
Yeah, so how I got into that is in investing for myself. Then also the pandemic played a little bit with it, is that, people were putting a lot of their programs on YouTube or just online.
That's right.
And so Dr. Fraser has an annual event called the Power Networking Conference. So I went to the Power Networking Conference in Houston last year in 2022, and I met Stan Matthews and Dr. Fraser. And after talking and stuff like that, they mentioned they had that anthology series, and they asked me if I'd be interested in being one of the co-authors in one of those editions.
That's incredible, dude. That is so. You go to an event,
yep,
and you end up an author. Like, let's go. Like, I told you he could work a room. Who does that? I got guys going out to. I got business owners going out to BNIs and networking functions and everything else. Like, yeah, man, I didn't get no leads or whatever. Like, my man goes and gets a book deal at an event. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. So tell me about the book.
Yeah. So basically, it's an anthology series where we're trying to share gratitude. And so when you find someone, that has, a good story to tell, is, doing good, positive things, then you go ahead and document that down. So it's basically 3 relationships that kind of shaped your life so you can move forward. And then you move and then you kind of present that, in this anthology, and just trying to spread the word, about gratitude.
Yeah, that's right. Count your blessings, man. How can you be in a bad mood if you're thankful?
Exactly. You can't.
That's right.
Yeah, you can't. You can't have negative and positive at the same time.
That's right. Yep. So you cannot be in a bad mood when you're grateful, folks. Count your blessings. That was that old hymn that we sang in church as a kid all the time. Really, like, count your blessings.
That's right.
One by one, right? So what are the 3 relationships that changed your life?
So the ones that changed my life was as a younger kid, I grew up in a place called Idlewild, Michigan.
Okay.
And there were some of the elders there that kind of poured into me, some of the history and stuff like that I wasn't necessarily getting in school, and so they kind of let me know the different life and legacy of, other Black or African-American people. And so they kind of shared history from a standpoint that it gave me that self-awareness and a kind of self-confidence that I just wasn't, unfortunately getting every day.
Gotcha.
And so the very first person she was kind of a matriarch, and she was very much a serial entrepreneur. And so what she did is she kind of gave me the whole know better piece through knowing and understanding my history.
Right.
And kind of the history collectively, and all of the good things and all of the great things that came out of that. And so she was the first one, and her name was Blanche Nelson. She's, long since passed away. But she was kind of the one that just educated me basically in a way that I just wasn't getting in school or elsewhere in the community. Yep.
Well, history, you can write your own history.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, if you just break it up in 2 words, it's his story, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
So, well, that's cool. All right. So that was one relationship. Who was somebody else had a big that changed your life? Big relationship that changed your life.
Yep. And so the other one, like during the pandemic, I was being asked to do a lot of like webinars and stuff like that with some of the consulting I was doing to help, certified small businesses.
Okay.
And so there was a woman that was a part of that. Her name is Vivian Martain.
Okay. And
through a couple of webinars that I did for a program that she had in St. Louis, it was brought out on how to do better.
Okay.
And a way to do better is to know your own personal code of conduct, your ethics, your values, and then share that with others to try to find where you have common ground.
That's right.
And so whether you're doing business or building a personal relationship, things aren't always going to go well.
That's right.
But if you can fall back on your code, the common points in your code of conduct or your values, you can fight forward or move forward from that.
All right. That's 2.
And Miss Martain is a beautiful woman.
I can count. All right. Number 3.
And the third one was kind of a group effort because I was struggling to understand real estate development, but more commercial real estate development. So another black gentleman back in Oregon, his name is Tyrone. He introduced me to a business owner in Oregon. His name is Steve. And so when the introduction was made initially, I wasn't at the same space, so I didn't quite know what would come out of it. But as I started to do more real estate investing and looking into development, I realized I really have to learn commercial development. And so the gentleman's name was Steve Deacon, and he had owned and founded a large construction company, Deacon Construction, and then he also has another company called Deacon Development. And so after the introduction that Tyrone had made, I kind of went a little bit, and I was out of town. I wasn't in Oregon at the time, but I knew I was coming back, so I called him. I said, Steve, hey, you had mentioned when we initially met that if I ever needed anything, to ask you. So I was like, I need something. And so, I set up to have coffee with him, and basically I told him that, I really don't know anybody that can really show me the ins and outs of commercial development. It's a very tough thing to get. It's really nothing they're teaching in school either.
That's right.
And he just said, you know what? I know what you're asking. I don't quite know how to do it, but we're going to figure it out. Come by Monday.
That's awesome. And
one of the things that it kind of brought me back to in my community was the saying, because there were certain people in the community that were not always doing the things that they were supposed to be doing. So some of the elders would tell me, hey, Alan, that person may be your color, but they're not your kind. Then what I learned later on down the line is sometimes that person may not be your color, but they may be your kind. So in the case of Steve Deacon, we come from different backgrounds, but to me, what the elders were saying, as I learned from experience, is it's really about justice. How is that person, promoting justice, which is, so people could have access to things so that whether nobody is looking or not, you're doing the right thing.
Right.
And you're promoting that. And so one of the cases that as I was going through with Steve is that I realized, wait a minute, there's reasons why I don't have immediate access in my community to real estate development and stuff like that. And it's because there was a time, and it's unfortunate, but there was a time period in this country where certain people from different groups didn't have the same opportunities and stuff like that. Well, there's a knowledge gap and an experience gap that goes along with that.
That's right.
And so the be accountable part came is that when I was talking with Steve, I was like, I want to I want to bridge that gap. So some of this information and stuff and this experience that I'm going to get from you, I want to take that back and pour it into my community so that, we can start to narrow this, wealth gap and this knowledge gap. And he holds me accountable to that. He wants to see that happen because he acknowledges that that's fact. You look back in history, you can't deny it. And he's in a position to where he can share that knowledge, that I wouldn't have otherwise had access to, so that I can take it back. And I'm ultimately using it to feed people.
Yes.
Literally. And so, that's valuable. And so that last relationship on be accountable, it's like, now you asked me to help you with this thing. How's it going? Where are you at with it? And it's just a beautiful thing, you know?
Yeah. Well, man, like, so first of all, I said it in the beginning. I think that I would put you up against, like, as far as like understanding value in relationships and how to build relationships and grow relationships, I'd put you up there with just about anybody. Okay. And that's a huge, that's a big compliment, because that's like, I mean, that is a necessity in this life, and especially to having large amounts of success, okay, on a large scale. So I understand your framework, the know better, be better, and be accountable, and how there was 3 key relationships that really helped build that, right? I wouldn't be doing our audience any justice if we didn't break down, like really dig on the relationship piece. Like, you know, like what are some of the things that, like, you're just, I don't know if it's something that you've thought about and it's systematic and you're just going out and executing, or if it just comes natural to you. But it's really good. It's really, really good. So when it comes to like building relationships, and I mean, dude, like, the best thing you can have when you go to a large group of folks is a wingman. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you would, oh my gosh. Yeah, like I can't, like next time, I can't wait till next year's prayer breakfast, because you're my wingman. We're going. So I'm serious. Like, there's so many folks that feel like they have good relationships, but they're so shallow. They're not deep. They're not growing. Like, you have to know these people and know what's important to them and know how they do those things. And that's how you find out how you can add value to those other people, right? So, like, I don't know, man, what's some of your framework when it comes to building relationships?
You know, probably the biggest piece that I found the hard way, you know what I mean? Because, I mean, success is a poor teacher. You know, we just learn from just bumping our heads, or, you know, unfortunately sometimes touch that hot stove. The one thing that I've learned to have discernment over is find ways to connect with people to see if they have a scarcity mindset. Very difficult to have that strength of relationship when you're working with someone that has a scarcity mindset, because they tend to get overly competitive.
They're not secure.
They're not secure. And in some situations, if you're doing business or a deal, oftentimes it creates a scenario where the second you turn your back, you know, you're getting a knife in it. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I really just try to understand if that person has that scarcity mindset, not to distance myself from them, but to identify it, and then just try to explain to them that there are infinite resources. And it's up to us to get our mind around it, and it flows when it's going to flow out and help somebody else other than yourself.
That's right. Because
you can't take these things with you, and oftentimes people get so consumed with this scarcity mindset that they build all of these things and they never enjoy it. But they're fierce about keeping it and having it. So that scarcity mindset makes it very difficult to grow in abundance. And so I really try to ask questions and but be an example about, you know, making my friends before I need them, and setting that example so you identify that. And you kind of just have to, because I've learned the hard way that when I didn't do that homework, or the professional corporate term due diligence, then it always surfaced at the hard times.
The Hitstreak is powered by Team Hyder. Team Hyder has been serving you for 11 years and has racked up over 20 national and local awards for excellence in all areas. When it comes to finding the right health plan, we need to consider your family's needs and your family's budget. That's what we do to serve you. To look further and to book an appointment, visit teamhyder.com. I've noticed something that, like, my wife is a great wingman. That girl can work a room, man. She can work a room.
Yep.
And, but, like, you know, my wife is so, like, she cares so much. She's an extrovert. She just wants to know everything about everybody. So all she does is she's not talking about herself. She's asking questions.
Yeah.
That's where you get the knowledge, right? So, like, and that's what I'm starting to, that I've been seeing for a long time. All the thing that great relationship builders have in common is they're getting to know people. You can't get to know somebody without asking questions.
Nope.
And you can't get to know them if you're telling them about yourself, right? So you ask a lot of questions. Do you have, like, any specific framework when you meet somebody on, like, what that might look like? How do you identify their the mindset that they have, what's important to them? You know, are they somebody, like, how long does it take to figure out that's somebody I need to do more with, or they're good on their own?
Yeah, you know, so it's just can they engage in just casual conversation?
Yep.
You know,
like we're doing right now.
Just like we're doing right now, you know, can they just talk about the simple, the basic things, you know, what do they do for fun, you know, where they're from?
Yeah.
If when you introduce and you exchange names, if they have, you know, a name that may be a little bit difficult, you know, from your background, you really focus on. So I would say the number one thing that I do is to get to know a person's name first, but know it to where I can remember it. I know who it is, and I use that name.
That's powerful. That's the hardest thing for me with it is I can remember faces. I coach my son's baseball team, has been since as long as he's been playing. And like that's a running joke is like I will know a kid's swing and ways to help them with their game before I will actually remember their name. Like you know what I mean? So like but once I got it. And but that's something I really have to focus on is like my mind goes.
Yep.
It's always running. And it runs fast. So a lot of times when people tell me their name, I might have been thinking about ways I can try to help this person or whatever it may be, and I forgot to document that. Click save, you know what I'm saying? Archive it, and remember their name. It's something I'm trying to be better at myself all the time, and it's usually about the third or fourth practice when I remember all those kids' names.
Yep.
You know?
No, it is. And
Nicknames help me a lot.
Yep. And I ask that too. So if somebody has a name or something like that, oftentimes depends on the setting. They may not share a nickname. Hey, you know, if you have a nickname, I'll be, and if you're comfortable with me using it, I'd be more than happy to. And then something we're so much alike is I would do the same thing where I would be actively listening, you know, to try to figure out, you know, if there's an opportunity to help or whatever. What I started doing later is that I would just take their name and then intertwine that with what they're saying, kind of what I was thinking.
Ooh.
So if I did want to respond, I would listen, you know, I would be like, Nick is saying this. Nick is saying, it sounds crazy, but it does work because you just get repetition.
Oh man.
You sort of
habits.
Just habits. And so I started doing that. And then also pay attention to that's why I asked, you know, where they're from, what do they like, what do they do? Because that oftentimes gets more into the uniqueness of that person. And then it gives meaning to their name. Their name pops out once you add all those other attributes to it. You see what I'm saying?
You see what seriously, just the name, look at what effort goes into that. Right. And if you can take that amount of effort on just a name, like, and you apply that same effort across getting to know that person, I think we just, we found the magic sauce that makes it work so well for you.
You did, because I mean, it's kind of cliche, but you know, what's the important word in any language to people? Their name.
That's right.
Their name. That's why I lead with it, because there's so much value in that, and so I just try to, you know, just be respectful and mindful of it. And I've learned over the years just different ways to do it, but I always start to make that connection, and then I share with them something unique about my name, and then hopefully that helps them to remember.
That's cool. That is cool. Well, like, you know, what I'll tell you, my wife and I have invested or worked directly with over 200 small business and agency owners over the last few years. And like they're all, when you're learning to sell or learning, like you go into business to drive revenue. So somebody's got to buy something. There has to be a good or service exchange for money at some point. And the hardest thing to do is when somebody needs something you do, can they find you, right? So that you can help them. But like at the end of the day, you're building relationships, and that ain't taught. That's not something you learn in the classroom. Some people are natural at it. I wasn't. I was not at all. It's something I'm still working on today. And but you know, practicing those things, finding, like, you have all these exercises and things that you've put into place you found so that you know what works, and you can have it's framework, really process and framework, right? I think that no matter what type of success on any level it is, or whoever's dreaming about it, I think we've dumbed it down to 3 key ingredients, right? So the first one is mindset. You got to believe it can happen. The second one is skill set. You have to develop the skills to be good enough at it to be successful. And number 3 is habits. You have to have reinforced habits that constantly make that thing better. I think we just described every single thing you just talked about when it came to building good relationships.
Yep.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And check this out, folks. I make a lot of notes. You guys see me writing on camera all the time. I make a lot of notes. This page is full.
Yep.
It is full. I'm writing my own book over here.
Yep.
I meant to ask you, are there any other books in your future? You got any other big dreams and aspirations with that?
Yeah. So like the next book that I'm working on is about code of conduct. To have a code of conduct, like a group code of conduct, so that when you're coming together to do stuff, you're doing it in the best interest of the group, right?
That's so good.
Yep. To kind of stay on code. And then, that framework that you just mentioned to yours, it's similar to the know better, do better, be accountable.
That's
to be,
right.
to be accountable, you got to have those habits to get going, and then the other ones too. And, but yeah, definitely want to get back to people thinking in terms of what's in the best interest of the community and not always just self, because individualism is like a tough thing because it gets you working in silos and you're not sharing, the resources that were meant to be shared. And you kind of can sometimes get caught into a scarcity mindset. And, people starve because of that. People are thirsty because of that. And so that's why the code of conduct, I'm so passionate about getting that out there so people can start to work through some of those things.
The only limits that we have are the ones we set for ourselves, right? So you got to push your limits because you're the one that set them. My daddy used to tell me that all the time. And the scarcity mindset is it's a confidence thing, right? And life is an offensive sport, and a scarcity mindset is a defensive mindset, right? So how many opportunities have we missed because we didn't see them standing right in front of us because we were focused on something else? What you focus on grows.
Yep.
Right. So if you're focused on bad things, what is it Steve Harvey says all the time? I only meet bad men. I only get to date dogs. I never marry a good one. He said, probably right. And then I'm broke. I'll never have any money. Probably right. I'm gonna work out hard and I'm gonna lose some weight. He's like, good possibility. Whatever you focus on grows, and believe. I love Ted Lasso, and you saw this. We have the believe signs everywhere in this place, at home and here, everything too, right? Because you got to believe. You got to believe. The problem is we think we got to see it to believe it. You actually got to believe it to see it.
Yeah.
Right, and that's where the faith comes in. You got to feed your faith.
Yep.
You got to feed your faith. So anybody that would, and this is another question that I don't know if I'm going to ask this, but you mentioned coaches. Literally today, multiple people sent me DMs across multiple platforms asking, how I could help them, coach them through stuff and all those things. We're building out some new courses and all kinds of stuff in the background, so that we can help more people. Do you do anything like that? Or is that something you're looking to get into in the future? Helping other entrepreneurs, like coaching them and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, that's kind of a large part of it is, the coaching, like you're saying, and then sometimes actually to come in and do the actual hands-on observations from coming to their, their actual places of business and stuff. So no, definitely that's something that I'm, doing. And then I'm building a platform around that, kind of like more to come. But right now it's kind of just like word of mouth, based on relationships and stuff like that. But definitely that's something that's in the works this year, to bring that out into a platform where people can not only tap into what I'm doing, but other like-minded people to do the same thing. I'm trying to build that network of coaches that can come in there and get you going with the construction business, ideally. But then, I believe in, like, what do you call it? Vertically integrated.
Yeah.
So anything that's related, to the construction industry, to go ahead and provide services to help those businesses as well. But that would be me. So I kind of believe if I'm in my lane and doing something, but there's something else that can bridge the gap to help somebody else, just strategically partnering or aligning myself with other like-minded individuals, and then just collaborating. That's right. That's it.
That's right. So, you have a great presence on LinkedIn, folks, and it's Alan Beane, Beane. Obviously, you can find that in all of our show notes. But if anybody wanted to seek any counsel from you or find out more about what you're doing, become an investor in your projects, what's the best way for them to contact you, and where can they find all your stuff?
The best way to do that is just to connect with me on LinkedIn. Excellent. Because I found that when you're kind of like a serial entrepreneur and you're doing so many different things, I found that LinkedIn is a good, platform to kind of, for people to reach out and get to know you. And so, please send me a request or, just go kind of look at the profile. And if anything resonates with you, contact me. But I also like to get to know people better, because if it's not something that we could necessarily do to help you, I always like to be able to refer people to other people. So it doesn't just stop with me. I like to use the whole network.
That's right. That's right. Once again, folks, we're hanging with the man, Alan Beane, the owner and president of Geograde Constructors, as well as the co-author of Who Influenced You. And I haven't read that one yet. I'm going to check that out. Right. I got to check that out for sure. And where can I get the book?
So basically, I'm going to add a link to my LinkedIn profile where people can go purchase that book.
Perfect.
Yep.
That's fantastic. So, folks, if you didn't get all that, if you want to reach out to Alan, send him a DM, connect with him on LinkedIn. Any questions you got, that's the place to get him, right? So that's the platform to do that. That's fantastic. And all right, so let's see. I had one more question. Let me find it here. Let me ask you this: is there any, like, if you had one final message that was the last one you could deliver on this earth before you could go? Like, what would that be that you would leave behind to the folks?
You know, the one thing that kind of snapped me into shape and kind of got me going is begin with the end in mind. And it's going to sound a little sad, but
that's how your GPS works.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. That is true. And oftentimes, like, think about what's going to happen, you know, at your, I'll call it, you know, your going home party. What are people going to say about you when, you know, your time here is done? I think about that from the standpoint to be doing now, you know, to build a legacy now, to help someone now, to be a part of something greater than myself now.
Right.
And I kind of look to see, you know, and that eulogy is what they call it, you know, what is somebody going to legitimately say about me? I can have that conversation with them now. And what more accountability do you have when you're saying, look, this is what I aspire to have in the end, so that in the end, people don't look at Alan, they look at the source, the Father. That's the biggest compliment, because it's nothing to do with me. It's all to do there.
That's right.
And then, you know, at the end of the day, I've always wanted to do something to where it inspires people to be like, you know what? And I don't mean this funny. You know, if Alan can do it, I can do it. I want to be that person, because I'm going to be doing something that's going to be uplifting, you know, trying to feed the people. And if somebody just looks at me and says, you know, that's fine. You know, I mean, that's kind of a life well lived. But definitely, again, to kind of begin with the end in mind and to have honest conversations with people about, you know, am I living the life that is actually helping people?
That's one of the most powerful exercises that honestly, it was, I had never really heard of it before until real recently, where people sit down and they write their eulogy. Yeah. That is deep and powerful. Yep. I would, like, seriously, if you want to know, like, deep down, you know, if you're happy with yourself, if you're happy with your life, if you're where you want to be. But if you can't recognize it or you can't come to grips with it, try to write your eulogy and you'll know real fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're not promised tomorrow. Nope. None of us are. And, you know, so live like you're dying, or live as if this day was your last. You know, that's a lot of times. So not a lot of people know this, but a couple months ago, there was at 42, when anytime there's a lump or a mass somewhere, it's not supposed to be there, it's alarming. And we found one. And it was something where I'm getting adjusted. It was actually a massage therapist that said, hey, there's this lump in your neck. What's that? I was like, I thought it was a knot. That's why I came over here. It wasn't a knot. Right. And so for about a month, while we were going through some tests and stuff, my wife and I were incredibly, it was a different life we were living for a minute because of the unknown. And everything's good. Right. So God bless that. But, like, I'm not going to lie. It changed. Like, I got a 2-year-old daughter at home. All right. 13-year-old son. And, you know, so all of a sudden I'm thinking about every single thing that I'm doing that day. Like, I was tired some days and all those things. And it was just like, man, like, you know, like all of a sudden I eat pretty good. Like, I work out and do a lot of things, but, like, all of a sudden those things became even more important, because it was like, man, I might need strength. I might need health to fight some of these things. Who knows what's coming? Dude, it was, it changed my whole outlook for my entire life, for the rest of my life, because of that one thing. It was very powerful. Yeah, man, you're not promised tomorrow. Be grateful for today. And when you get tomorrow, that should be the first thing you're grateful for when you wake up, right?
It is. And also what you just said, cherish those relationships, especially with those babies. I'm jealous. I'm an empty nester. You got a couple at home. That's beautiful. That's a blessing. Yeah. Blessings.
Dude, I say this outside of Jesus Christ and your next breath, the greatest gift God gives us is a child. It changed it. I mean, I'm a better person because of my kids, right? 100%. And so they say at the end of the day, they saved my life. You know what I'm saying? They truly did. All right. So if you are an author, you've obviously read some books from time to time, right? So you're a smart man. What are you got three top books to recommend for business people, entrepreneurs, people that want to do more outside of the Bible, of course, right? So 3 books that you would recommend. And he didn't know I was going to ask him this. He's on the spot right now.
So I'm glad that you narrowed it down to business. I probably would say the one that I refer to often is called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, The Entrepreneurial Myth, The E-Myth. The second one that is Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, that one that's my top 3 too, for sure.
Yep. And then the other one is Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Carnegie's great.
Yeah, because that's that relationship piece.
Yeah, I haven't read that one though. I'm gonna check that one out.
Yep.
That's a good one. The Hitstreak is powered by Rack Financial. When it comes to your credit card merchant processing, Rack Financial is efficient, reliable, and trusted. At the end of the day, when it comes to processing your credit card payments, they make it simple, the way it's supposed to be. Check out Rack Financial. And there's some great movies out there where you can see examples and some great portrayals of stuff. Last year there was some good, like the Uber story was put out. It was like a series, and then there was another one about WeWork. Phenomenal stuff, and you get to learn from these things. All the Steve Jobs movies and everything else. What are top three movies about entrepreneurialism or business that you like?
Wow, I probably would say one that came out, The Banker.
Okay,
was a good one for me, and then some of the ones you're talking about, like the autobiographies of like, you know, a Steve Jobs, you know, and like that is definitely
The Founder was really good too.
Yeah, The Founder. Yep, yep, that's a good one.
They're fantastic. I can't wait till they make more of those. It's so cool when you get and we met Stephen Lloyd, who's coming in I think next week to shoot an episode with me. And who we met, and that's at the National Prayer Breakfast, and that's the movie or the series Dope Sick. It's about him. He's the doctor that Michael Keaton plays in the show. It's really, really cool. So again, just like what a room that the National Prayer Breakfast was, and then obviously the purpose of it was even greater. It was fantastic. So any final thoughts, Alan, before we bring this sucker to a close?
No, just honestly, just like thanks for the opportunity, and just
thank you.
Yeah, just really love and appreciate, you know, what you're doing as a platform to kind of get entrepreneurs out there to try to resonate and just try to grow that, because I think that the whole platform is creating more producers. People that are, you know, providing jobs and providing opportunities for others. To me, that's kind of at the heart of entrepreneurship.
That's right.
And I think that your platform growing that is just going to make, you know, the community and just, you know, places better.
Thank you. It's crazy. The more that we give, the more that we get. It's amazing how that works. That's that faith portion, right? It's just believing in what you believe in and going all in on it. You can't, I'm the guy that don't just tap one foot in the water. I'm just going to cannonball right on in, to test it, Well, brother, thanks so much, man. I mean, seriously, it's great to have you in Nashville. Welcome.
Yep. Thank you.
Welcome. Glad the city's treating you well. It's a good time. It's a good time. I hope you get to what is it they said in the Hangover? Bangkok's got him now. He'll never get it back. Nashville ain't like that, but it can get wild down there a little bit. It's a good time, man.
Definitely happy to be here, and you kind of opening the door, because I'm definitely going to be back again, doing, the business that matters, which is kind of collaborating with people to build community, strong community. And so I'll definitely be back. Nashville is a perfect place for that, and I'm glad that it is now on my radar. Thank you.
Well, one more thing to put on your radar, and that is, like, I can't tell you this podcast has, I can't even truly describe how big of an impact it's had on our relationships, our businesses, our growth. People ask me a lot, Nick, what's your most valuable tool in your tool belt? This is by far my strongest tool in my tool belt to grow anything. And you could have came to Nashville, we could have had coffee, we could have had a drink, whatever. But was its purpose. This hour that we spent together, hour and a half, was very purpose driven, and it's going to help others. And it made sure that we saw each other when you were here, right?
That's right.
We both committed. So there's so many people that have signed the wall that have been previous guests that, like, you know, if it wasn't for this, of course I want to talk to them, and I hope they want to talk to me, but like, I didn't have a reason. This gives me so many reasons to grow relationships. And give people a platform. So I think, dude, if you hadn't thought about a podcast yet, you should.
All right, I will, man. You just inspired me.
You do. It'd be really good. I'd listen to every one of them.
All right, man. I appreciate that. That's next.
Absolutely.
And I want you to be my first guest.
Yeah, I'm in. You heard it right there, folks. I'm in. Well, brother, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you. I really do value the relationship a lot.
All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Well, folks, once again, big shout out to Alan Beane, the owner and president of Geograde Constructors and the co-author of Who Influenced You. Folks, thanks so much for tuning in to yet another episode of the Hitstreak. I am your man, Nick Hyder. God bless.